Hello and welcome back to another holistic education video. In this video, we'll be continuing our series on the 25 hardest SAT math problems of this year according to Prep Maven. In this video, we'll be looking at problem number 20, which says, a gear ratio, R to S, is the ratio of the number of teeth of two connected gears. The ratio of the number of revolutions per minute, RPM, of two gear wheels is S to R. In the diagram below, gear A is turned by a motor. The turning of gear A causes gears B and C to turn as well. If gear A is rotated by the motor at a rate of 100 RPM, what is the number of revolutions per minute for gear C? 50, 110, 200, or 1,000? So let's start off by writing down what we know. Well, we know the number of teeth of these gears. So gear A, we'll say TA is the number of teeth of gear A, that's 20. And then the number of teeth of gear B is 60. And then the number of teeth of gear C is 10. We also know the rotational speed of gear A, which is 100 RPM. The rotation of gear A is 100 RPM, and we're looking for the rotation of C. So how do we figure this out? Well, the important thing to know from the problem is it tells us that the ratio between the number of teeth is RS, and the ratio between the number of rotations is SR. In other words, they're opposite. So what does that mean? Well, if we were to think about what is the ratio of the rotation of B compared to the rotation of A, well, we know from the problem that's just the opposite of the relationship between the teeth of B to A, or in other words, it's the relationship of the teeth of A over the teeth of B. So the ratio between the rotation of B over A is equal to the ratio of the teeth of A over B. And likewise, we can say the same thing for gears B and C. So the rotation of C over the rotation of B would be equal to the teeth of B over the teeth of C. And these two equations are actually all that we need to solve this problem. And to show why that is, if this first equation, if we multiply both sides by RA, we would get RB equals TA over TB times RA. And for the second equation, we would get RC equals TB over TC times RB. And with these two equations together, we can take this value of RB right here and plug it into here, and we can get that RC equals TB over TC times TA over TB times RA. So if we're to simplify this, we can see that this TB can cancel out with this TB, and we'll just end up with TA over TC times RA. Or in other words, the rotation of gear C equals TA, which is 20, over TC, which is 10, times the rotation of A, which is 100 RPM. 20 over 10 equals 2, and this whole thing equals 200 RPM, which corresponds to option C. C is our final answer. We can take these relationships and rewrite them in forms that we can substitute one for the other and get a final answer. And one of the interesting things to notice about this is we saw in our final equation the value TB, the number of teeth of gear B, cancel out on the top and the bottom. And in our final equation, we don't have any variable relating to gear B at all. Funny enough, we don't need to know anything about gear B to figure out the answer to this problem. And that actually makes sense if you think about it, because even though gear A only touches gear B and gear C only touches gear B, every single rotation of one tooth of gear A is going to turn gear B 1 tooth, which is going to correspondingly turn gear C 1 tooth. So in a sense, gear B is just working as a middleman that causes every turn of 1 tooth of gear A to turn 1 tooth of gear C. So ultimately, what really matters is the relationship between the size of gear A to gear C, and the actual size of gear B in the middle doesn't matter at all. So that might actually be a very useful trick to know in the future if you ever get a problem like this again. If you really wanted to do this quickly and remember this trick, you don't have to worry about gear B at all, and you can just plug in that the rotation of gear C equals simply the rotation of gear A, 100, times the ratio of gear C to gear A, 20 over 10 to 100. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.